All right, good evening. I'm looking over chapter 5 and 6 of our reading and answering the questions that were provided. For the first question, was when you and a colleague were faced with a challenge, and identify 3 tips in your opinion and explain why you chose them. Provide stories and examples. So the first one for me was realize that others can help and you are not alone. I remember when I first took over as our department head, I was kind of a control freak. I wanted to control everything that I could. Not necessarily because I didn't trust the other members of my department, just because I wanted to make sure it was done right. And I kind of overwhelmed myself and had too much on my plate. And as I've continued in this role, I've realized to delegate and to support my team more so than just trying to do all the work myself. And this has definitely helped me to be a better time manager and help support my department because I'm not stretched as thin. For the second one is to learn from previous examples, um, and you have to meet change before, or you have met change before and survived. Um, I feel like as teachers, we're constantly adapting. For example, throughout my workday, I feel like my first class perceives a completely different lesson than my last class because I'm constantly making the adjustments and I'm trying to improve my instruction from one class to the next. And I feel like almost every teacher does that. And then the last one is conduct yourself in a thoughtful and caring way during stressful times. I try to do this every day. I mean, our profession can be very stressful, and I want to make sure that the other people who work in my building know that I care about them, right? So, um, just take the time to be more personable. Take the time to offer to help people when I can, and also realize that you can only do so much and try to manage that stress level throughout the day and the school year. The next question is think of a success story that you can share with colleagues that um, you have had with a parent. Um, for me, this is a very challenging part of our profession. I don't like having to talk to parents. That's something that I've had to work on. When I first started teaching, I tried to avoid it altogether. However, um, this is our career requires that we communicate with the parents, and recently I've started helping plan a major field trip that my team's going to do at the end of the school year, and that's required a lot of communication, like constant communication with a large number of parents at a time. And it also has required me to take up large amount of money from these people, and those are 2 things I don't like to do. I don't like having to communicate with parents, and I don't like having to deal with other people's money. But I definitely feel like I've grown throughout this year having to manage both of those things. And communicating with parents when students aren't in trouble goes a long way, right? So you build that positive relationship. Um, so I feel like that has definitely helped me to grow with it is trying to realizing that if you get ahead of the problem, I guess, communicate with parents with positive things, kind of builds that relationship with them, and they're going to trust you when you come to them with a potential problem in the future. The next question is examine 2 types of the leadership style. And the first one is the direct leadership. Um, direct leadership's like you said in your video, it's my way or the highway. And we've all worked with somebody who's like that. I've realized that there are, I guess, advantages to that. Like knows what is expected of you, but also like I don't feel like you grow as much under that type of leadership. I've definitely that you kind of go into the survival mode, like what's expected of you. You don't try to do more than what's expected of you because you don't want to buck the system, I guess. Um, I'm trying to think of a good example of that. I've definitely sat in meetings where we're going to do it this way, and that's just kind of the end of the discussion. And I feel like those meetings aren't very productive. There's no growth for the teachers, and as a result, I don't feel like the growth for the students are as big. Um, but when sitting in or working under leadership that's more of a facilitator, I feel like I've grown much more in my recent years with my current admin than in the past, because he does give you the chance to take on additional responsibilities and come up with different ideas. And I've tried to incorporate that into my leadership style as a department head, is to encourage um, those I work with, hey, try something new, do something different, see how it works, and make the adjustments and come back and let's talk about it and see what we can do different. And I feel like that's definitely been more productive than maybe even I was when I first became the department chair. Um, so I believe there are advantages to both and disadvantages to both. The advantages for a direct leader would be, you know, what's expected of you. There's no um, gray area, I guess. And then the disadvantage would be you don't get to try new things. You are following direct instruction, and you don't differ from that. For the fourth question is the facilitator role. The advantage is definitely that you are given the freedom to try new things, to discuss new things. It's more of a team. Like, you're working through a process together. The disadvantage is with that, there's more areas that you could mess up with because it's not as cut and dry as it is with a direct leader. So that's my thoughts on chapter 5 and 6, and thank you for your time.